Okay, we're back, and just before we get to a couple of the questions here, I want to cover one more topic that a lot of times people get concerned about, because obviously I talk about shopping and looking at a considerable amount of homes. Make sure that you're finding what it is you want of the homes that are out there. The other one is what if I find the perfect home right off? Doesn't happen very often, but I have had it happen on several occasions. In fact, one time we had a list of about 10 to 12 houses, I would imagine, to go look at, because I booked the first half of the day off to go do this. We take off, we look at a couple houses, we go into the third house, just a beautiful house, the couple's just swooning over it. We go off to the fourth house, we get about halfway through the fourth house, and the wife says, I don't want to look at any more houses, I want to go back and write an offer on that other house. And I said, well, let's stop. I mean, if you found the house that is everything that you're looking for, why proceed? Everything else becomes a disappointment at that point. So I tell people, don't be concerned if for some reason we hit a home run on the first pitch. Sometimes it just happens, and you get a fastball down the middle, you drive it hard. Great baseball analogy. But take the opportunity when you do find the right house and go after it to purchase it. When we have a time to do another segment a little bit about purchasing homes and what to offer, and get into that a little bit further, we can talk a little bit about what kind of offers to make, which would be really helpful. A lot of times people hear things about the economy and what their friend got and what so and so did, and they want to base their process on somebody else's experience. And really, our process has to be based on the marketplace. We want to try to help put you in a position where you're able to acquire when you do find the perfect home. But let's get over to some questions. Here's the first one for today. Do I really need to use a real estate agent to buy a house? And that's a great question, because the answer is no. You don't really need a real estate agent to buy a house. And I've heard other agents use this analogy. No, you don't need a doctor to perform surgery. You can operate on yourself, or some of those type of analogies. I'm not going to equate it to that, but here's the deal: your real estate agents, particularly in the state of Arizona, where we're an agency state, your agent has a fiduciary duty to you. If you use an agent to acquire a home, he has a duty of loyalty, of honesty, of accountability, of obedience for any lawful direction. So for instance, let's say somebody is asking $100,000 for a house, and you tell your agent you want to write an offer for $5. Your agent would certainly advise you that, hey, this is a waste of my time, it's a waste of your time, we shouldn't do this. But they have a duty to obey your lawful directions when you're in an agency relationship with them. They basically become an extension of you. They're there to do your research, your legwork, to provide you the information that they know about the transaction. So you don't need a real estate agent, but it's highly advisable, just like having an attorney when you go to court. Agents provide you that fiduciary duty, that duty that is owed to you above all other parties to the transaction. So your real estate agent can't withhold information from you just simply because they're trying to maximize their commission. That is prohibited. Whether they make 1% on the deal or 50% on the deal, your agent has a responsibility to do what's in your best interest. And being that Arizona is an agency state, you are protected by their duty of responsibility to you. The only time where they ever have a split duty or responsibility is if they represent the seller and the buyer. When your real estate agent represents both you and the seller of the home, you as a buyer and the seller of a home, there are certain things where their duties are split, and they cannot provide you the duty of advocacy. They cannot try to negotiate on your behalf the lowest price for you while trying to negotiate the highest price for the seller. And so typically we recommend often that you work with a buyer's agent when acquiring a property. It's not necessarily in your best interest to work with the listing agent as a buyer, because the listing agent has split loyalties. His primary responsibility is to the seller, but he can represent you fairly and honestly. He's just not going to be your advocate in the transaction, and advocacy is very important. Because you don't want to miss an opportunity where one exists. He's not going to be able to provide you information that has been provided as a matter of confidentiality from one party or the other. So yes, I highly recommend that you work with a real estate agent professional, and most all agents in the residential side perform their duties free of charge to the buyer when it comes to acquiring a home listed in the multiple listing service. Many of them may charge a fee if you buy a for sale by owner. That's typically done under a buyer-broker exclusive employment agreement, just to ensure that your agent gets compensated at the end of the transaction. But when we work with buyers on properties listed in the MLS, our buyers do not pay the fee. The seller actually pays the fee. So highly recommended that you work with a real estate agent, but definitely not required. Here's the next question that we have in here. How much should I offer for a house? And I don't know if we're going to have enough time to get into this really deep, but we're going to touch on the top of it. And I know that this has been a discussion for a topic for one of our upcoming shows. How much you should offer for a house depends on several factors. First off, the market. For instance, 6 months ago, 6 months worth of inventory, very few buyers in the marketplace, prices still declining. It was a very good time to make lowball offers, I'll just say, considerably under asking price. The last couple months, we've set sales highs. We have under 3 months worth of inventory, about 2.5 months worth of inventory, lots of buyers. Very few pieces of real estate in order to make offers on. Therefore, you have to pay a higher price in order to acquire that property. I was just in a meeting with the Wells Fargo representatives, and they said that they are averaging 102% of list price. So that means that if they put a property out there for $100,000, that by the time all the offers get done, they are accepting an offer for about $102,000. So that tells you that there's more competition. So how much you should offer for a house has to be based on what you can afford. Your real estate agent should let you know what the market value, today's market value, is for that house, so that you can make an informed decision about your equity position after acquisition, and then what it will take to acquire the house in today's market and with today's competition. Many of the buyers that we have coming to us, in order to qualify for financing, whether it's FHA or whatever they're financing, they need sellers to contribute towards their closing costs in order to make the transaction happen. One of the things that you need to factor in is that when we ask a seller to pay, we'll say 2% of your closing costs on a $100,000 transaction, they look at that as being a $98,000 offer, because they're basically subtracting that $2,000 off of their bottom line of what they are going to get. And so sometimes people don't understand that. Well, I made a $100,000 offer. They were offering $99,500. They were asking $99,500. We offered $100,000. We offered over asking price. But yeah, we also asked for 2% closing concession. So our offer to them was really $98,000. And what if they get a $99,000 cash offer? Our offer isn't as strong. So it's important when considering how much should I offer for a house that you work closely with your real estate agent in order to determine what the house is worth, how much you're willing to pay, what you can afford, and what the future value of that house is. I'm not talking, a year, 2 years down the road, but after closing. What is the house going to be worth once we close this transaction? Now, I want to remind you to please send your questions and even your comments into me at radio@rescottaz.com. Would love to hear from you. It's your questions that help make this program great. The answers to these questions end up spurring new programs quite often, and it also helps a lot of other people. People don't understand that there's many other people dealing and going and thinking the same thing they are in the real estate industry. And we're approaching our closing time here, and our music is about to start, which means I have got to leave. And I look forward to speaking with you again next time. Have a great day.